On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, Tesla chief designer Franz von Holzhausen gives a design overview of the Cybercab. Cybertruck owners get an interim supercharging speed boost as they wait for the full 500 kilowatts next year. Full self-driving version 13 goes wide with good news for AI 3 owners to boot, and more. What's happening, friends? Ryan McCaffrey joining you for episode 490 of Ride the Lightning. It's your weekly Tesla unofficial podcast, this one publishing on December 22nd, 2024. To my left on the couch is Daisy the Boxer. Directly in front of me are 20 pages of Tesla notes, lots to talk to you about this week. First up, I want to wish a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah this week to those who are celebrating. I decided this week for the Patreon poll to go with a Tesla holiday theme. So in just the spirit of this week, I asked, have you used the holiday light show feature in your Tesla? Now, as many of you probably know, it used to be that the Model X was the only Tesla vehicle that got a light show. But a few years ago, they rolled it out to the rest of the fleet as well. The X is arguably still the star of those light shows since it has the Falcon Wing doors that can effectively flap, but the rest of the cars have really cool light shows as well. So I asked you simply, have you used the holiday light show feature in your Tesla? And I was very happy to see that 46% of you said yes, with just 25% of you voting no, and another 20% of you saying, no, but I will now that this poll reminded me about it. And then 9% saying, I don't have a Tesla or light show capable Tesla / just show me the results. So thank you to everybody that took the time to stop by and vote in this week's Patreon poll. It's totally free. You don't need to be backing me on Patreon or anything like that. Just swing by. Typically every Tuesday evening is when the poll goes up. Just head on over to patreon.com/Tesla podcast, and you will see the new question posted up each week. Well, you may recall that on last week's podcast, I was shot out of a cannon because I was on the eve of delivery day of my second Tesla ever, my new Model 3 Performance. I got it. I got the car. I will tell you all about my delivery day experience because it was a unique one. It was an interesting day. So I'm going to talk about that towards the end of the podcast so that people that are here for Tesla news and don't really care about me and what's going on with my life can get that info without having to listen to me talk about my Tesla. But for now, lots to get to. I'm going to start with this good news, at least according to a post on X from SiriusXM. And I want to give a shout out here to longtime loyal listener and Patreon backer Jerome Strack, who first flagged this to me. It looks like SiriusXM will allow lifetime subscriptions to be transferred over to your Tesla and that they are actively working on it. So during the week, this past week, I tweeted at them to let them know, politely and respectfully, that I thought it wasn't right that customers with existing paid accounts couldn't use those accounts in their cars. I talked about this on last week's podcast, so I don't have to read you the tweet or anything, but the Tesla community, to their credit, had my back. A lot of folks in the Tesla community reposted that, shared it, enough, I guess, to get SiriusXM's attention. So Jerome sent their customer care a DM on the back of this after responding to them publicly on X, and one of their customer care reps responded back in DM to Jerome by saying, "Great news! Lifetime subscriptions will soon be transferable to Tesla vehicles. We'll notify you via email once it's ready." So then I went back and looked, because I had the original tweet tagging them on this to raise this issue, and it turns out they had responded to me as well. I just missed it. So then I sent them a DM and got the exact same copy-pasted response, which is fine. It's indicative that it's the answer I wanted to hear. So it's indicative that they are doing something about this. And I suppose word will spread pretty quickly once it actually does, because, they said, well, we'll notify you via email. Well, I hope they notify everybody, not just people that complain about it on social media. But anyway, I unfortunately have to say that they still have to show and not just tell on this until it actually happens. It hasn't happened yet, but I can't imagine a customer service rep just repeatedly making hollow promises to customers in writing. So the next real question isn't if, but when.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Now. You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened to then?
We passed then.
When?
Just now. We're at now.
Go back to then.
When?
Now.
Now?
Now.
I can't.
Why?
We missed it.
When?
Just now.
When will then be now? Soon.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself when I was writing my notes about this and saying, well, the real next question isn't if, but when. And I couldn't, in my brain, I went, when will then be now? Soon, because I think of Spaceballs is so quotable. Although, you know what occurs to me? I was explaining my new Model 3 Performance's badge to my wife, who is at this point reasonably well versed in all things Tesla, just by osmosis, because she has no other choice but to listen to me talk about it. And, the plaid Teslas have a plaid flag, basically, for a badge on the back of the car. And I just love that the new Model 3 Performance, as I was talking about last week when I got my car, or when I was about to get my car, I love that the new Model 3 Performance has basically an insane mode badge, where it's like just the light speed version of the flag instead of the full plaid. And I was saying to my wife, I wonder, Tesla's done so much for keeping the spirit of Spaceballs alive by literally naming popular cars after things from that movie. And I was thinking, well, you know what? I'm 44, and that movie came out when I was 7. So how many Tesla fans, or let's say Tesla customers, we don't even have to say necessarily fans, but how many Tesla customers even get the reference, that know that it's a Spaceball reference? If they're buying a Plaid S or Plaid X, do they get that it's a reference to a 1987 Mel Brooks movie? Because I have to imagine that the younger ones might not even know. And that's okay. I'm not blaming them. The movie's pretty old is kind of the point here. And so I wonder how many folks out there don't actually know that Ludicrous, Insane, and Plaid are all references from Spaceballs that Tesla has put into the cars. So if you're a younger person out there and you just learned that from hearing me talk about it, great. Go watch Spaceballs when you get a chance. I mean, maybe it won't have aged well to your younger mind, your younger humor, comedy sensibilities, but for me, it's still funny. I actually rewatched it not too long ago. It's a Star Wars parody is the only real setup you need, and that'll become pretty obvious if you start watching it. But anyway, I love Spaceballs, and I couldn't help but throw that clip in there, even though it didn't really fit into what I was talking about, but I couldn't help myself. All right, let's get back to all things Tesla. More good news this week. Full self-driving version 13 has gone wide to the AI4 cars. Plus, we got an update on when those of us with Hardware 3 cars can expect it as well. So Tesla's AI boss, Ashok Elaswamy, posted on X saying, quote, FSD version 13.2.1 is now rolling out wide to AI4 customers. That, plus the holiday vehicle software update, is coming within a week. The team is working on a much updated 12.6 for AI3 customers by the end of this year. Merry Christmas. So 12.6, not 13.2, but still a nice bump. I'll take it on the spirit of adventure, while I continue to wait for any update in my new car, because as those of you who've maybe taken delivery of a new Tesla really any time over the last several years, you know that for whatever reason, it just tends to take a little while before you get your first update. And then once you do, from there, you tend to get updates when everybody else does. But for right now, my new car was delivered with FSD 12.3.6. So whenever I get my first software update, the good news is I should go straight from that old version that's so old, I have to keep my hand on the wheel like a common plebe. I say sarcastically, in case I didn't lay that on thick enough. But I'll jump straight from that to 13.2.1, or maybe even something newer, depending on the timing of it, where it's completely hands-off. And from everything I'm hearing in the Tesla community, as it is starting to go out wide, that version 13 really is a noticeable step forward in the quality and smoothness and human-like behavior of FSD version 13. So those of you with AI4 cars have hopefully already received it by the time you hear this. And as for my old AI3 car, and those of you with Hardware 3 cars, well, hopefully it's going to happen. We'll see how long it's going to take, how far it's going to lag behind the AI4 cars. I mean, I continue to hold out some optimism and hope that Tesla is still going to find a way to continue supporting the AI3 cars with these significant FSD updates. And we'll just have to see in the new year if the time between AI4 and AI3 cars getting these updates stays the same, or if it starts widening and widening and widening. But we don't have to cross that bridge until we come to it. But again, for FSD 13, I hope a lot of you have gotten it already and you're liking what you're experiencing. I haven't gotten to experience it yet, but from what I have heard, it is pretty darn fantastic. Like, actually genuinely so, without any hyperbole. So a nice little extra Christmas gift from Tesla here. Let's keep piling up more good news, this time for Cybertruck owners. If you've got a Cybertruck, you are getting an intermediate supercharging speed boost at select stations, while you continue to wait for the full 500 kilowatt peak charging on V4 superchargers with V4 cabinets, which we know is coming next year. The official Tesla charging account on X posted this past week, quote, Cybertruck can now charge up to 325 kilowatts on select V4 supercharger posts. Rollout in progress. And they give a pretty long list of the locations that support this 325 kilowatt peak charging so far. I'm going to go ahead and read them to you, because for you Cybertruck owners, maybe one of these is near you and you want to run your battery down and go try it out. So Lubbock, California, Chemult, Oregon, Columbus, Georgia on Macon Road, Dayton, Ohio on North Springboro Pike, Dunnigan, California on County Road, Lamoni, Iowa, Wilsonville, Oregon, Truckee, California on Deerfield Drive, Harrison, New York, Far West, Utah, Tacoma, Washington on South 40th Street, Highland, California at 4154 East Highland Avenue, Melissa, Texas, Cedar Park, Texas on East Whitestone Boulevard, Gillette, Wyoming on South Douglas Highway, Rockaway, New Jersey, my OG stomping grounds, not Rockaway specifically, but I remember that area, on Green Pond Road, Mesa, Arizona on South Signal Butte Road, Blaine, Washington on Boblet Street, Santa Ynez, California, and then they say, and more coming. So 325 kilowatts, that is awesome, and will absolutely help get the total supercharging session times on the Cybertruck and its big ol' 123 kilowatt battery pack closer to parity with the rest of the fleet, which obviously all have smaller battery packs than the Cybertruck. Side note, all of the Tesla teams really deserve a ton of credit for how hard they work. I mean, I try to take stock of that on this podcast from time to time, but if I were to hand out an MVP trophy to one of the Tesla teams for 2024, I think it would have to be the Tesla charging team. Why do I say that? Well, they weathered a massive layoff that really had to be tough on them in terms of morale, and they still opened a ton of new supercharger stations, announced some absolutely gargantuan projects here in California, 100 plus 164 stall stations, more than one of them. They're finishing up the drive-in diner supercharger down in Hollywood, which I guess probably won't quite open by the end of the year. Not that Tesla ever put an opening date on it. It just has definitely been progressing along to the point where I hoped when I saw the construction update photos that maybe it would make it open in time for holiday travel, but doesn't quite seem like it's quite there. The Tesla charging team also rolled out V4. They pushed the Cybertruck up to the aforementioned 325 kilowatts, and they announced the aforementioned 500 kilowatts for Cybertruck coming next year, not to mention in-car navigation improvements and other notable quality of life upgrades for Tesla owners. And they did all of this while maintaining an insane uptime on the network of something like 99.97% uptime on the network. That's huge. Big shout out to the Tesla charging team. Your work is crucial not just for Tesla owners, but at this point, with the adoption of the NACS plug nationwide, federally, the work of the Tesla charging team is crucial for the entire EV movement. So my 2024 MVP trophy for Tesla goes to the Tesla charging team. Just absolutely incredible work. Well, another week, another tweak to the incentives. Tesla has upped the ante on the Model 3 referrals specifically. You can get $1,500 off of a Model 3 between now and the end of the year. And I realize we're pretty last minute at this point, but $1,500 off if you order a Model 3 with the referral link. So if that is of interest to you, use somebody's referral link. If you'd like to use mine, it's ts.la/Ryan73014. Just type that into any browser on a desktop or mobile device, I should say, and that will take you to a landing page where you can click on Model 3, configure whatever Model 3 or inventory car that you want to grab, and you'll, when you submit the order, you'll have that $1,500 off baked in. Also, on my Patreon this week, I did what I think is my longest lightning round, quote unquote, mini episode ever. It was 30 minutes long this week because I took a walk down memory lane on the occasion of me buying my third new car ever, second Tesla. I made this week's lightning round mini episode on Patreon I talked about every car I've ever owned. Again, it's only 5, but they've all meant different things to me, in their own unique ways. So I spent clearly a lot of time talking about all the cars I've owned. Spent a lot of time on the DeLorean, as you can imagine. But if you'd like to hear that, you can just support me on Patreon, where there's not just that waiting for you if you back me, support me at that $10 per month tier or higher. But there are 124 other lightning round mini episodes up there for you too. So there are now 125 of them total if you're backing me at that $10 per month tier or higher. And if you do that, you'll not only get access to all of those lightning round mini episodes, including the new ones I do each week, you'll get ad-free episodes and you'll get early access to each week's episode. But if $10 is, you're like, no, I don't want to give you $10 a month. There is a $5 per month tier as well, where you will get early access to each week's episode and you'll get each week an ad-free episode. So if you'd like to support me on Patreon, I would be humbled and grateful if you would. To do so, to learn more, and to actually do the supporting, head on over to patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. annual pledges, if you decide to be so kind as to support me for an entire year, you can just pay once, and if you do that, you'll get a 10% discount off of that annual pledge. And there is a holiday promo running through Patreon. It's 20% off of your first month with the promo code 2645F, as in future. 2645F for 20% off your first month. So again, head on over to patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Next up this week, it is our headline topic. Franz von Holzhausen, Tesla's chief designer, friend of the podcast, went over to one of his favorite hangouts, the Peterson Auto Museum, which, as I've said before, I cannot recommend enough. If you're ever in the Los Angeles area, it is worth half a day at least. Because you're going to want, if you think, I'll just go over there for like an hour. No, you're not going to see anywhere close to everything. Maybe an hour is all you can do, and an hour is better than nothing. But it is a absolutely spectacular automotive museum with an incredible collection. I do recommend that you add the vault tour onto your ticket if you do go, if you've got the time, where it's literally a basement that's just filled with amazing cars that they're rotating, in this case, out of active display. Like, for instance, for me, one of the 3 24-karat gold-plated DeLoreans that was ever made is down there. And so that's the first time I went to the Peterson a few years ago. That was what I was super excited to see, because I'd never actually seen one of the 3 in person. So there's just all sorts of amazing stuff, including a lot of great Tesla stuff, like the white rolling mule next-gen Roadster from Franz's design studio. It's just living down there in the vault right now. But anyway, what's on active display right now is one of the Cybercab prototypes, and Franz went over to the Peterson and filmed a video with them going through it, just giving a design overview of it. It's 9 minutes long, and I had intended to just play some clips from it. But when I watched it and listened to it, it actually I thought it made sense to just play you the entire 9 minutes of audio, because the video doesn't really rely on visuals at all. And also, Franz says a lot of interesting stuff, and the way it's edited, it just kind of comes pretty rapid fire. So I'll talk through the things that jumped out at me after I play you the audio here. So again, this is just under 9 minutes long. Enjoy.
It's a really exciting vehicle for us. This is something that is going to radically change transportation as we know it. Cybercab is a fully autonomous vehicle. You can own the car, you can purchase the car, you can lease the car for the amount of time that you want. It's a different type of ownership experience than maybe we're 100% familiar with, but I think it's going to really revolutionize the way that we move ourselves around. It allows people that didn't necessarily have access to public transportation to get from A to B, to go to places where they maybe couldn't afford to go or where transportation wouldn't take them. Okay, we're standing here in the rear of the vehicle, and here's where you actually can see how teardrop shaped the car is and some of the unique features about the rear of the car. We have indirect lighting for the rear signature, something that we haven't really seen before. There's obviously no rear window. And in an autonomous car, when you're really focused on getting from A to B, you're not doing the driving. It doesn't matter so much about what's behind you, but it allows us to actually have incredibly big storage in a small car like this. So conceptually, 2 people going to the airport can put their big luggage in the back as well. So there's plenty of room for extra luggage. It's great for deliveries, food deliveries, packages, etc. So there's multi-use for this product. We wanted the car to really feel like from science fiction or from the future in a way. So we've taken some of the design language that we've used on our other vehicles, Model 3, Model Y, Cybertruck, and really extended that into this vehicle. It's got a very dynamic stance to it. The big wheels really help hide the proportion of the car, really make it feel tight and compact and just futuristic. Obviously, the dihedral doors open up in a way that's just not conventional and really make you feel like you're stepping into the future of the car. And as we kind of move around, you can see Obviously, there's no steering wheel. This is a fully autonomous car, will never have a steering wheel, and is really only focused on autonomy. Inside the car, it's 2 seats, and there's a massive screen inside. So when you're not driving, this enables you to relax. The screen is around entertainment. Since you're not driving, you can be productive, do work, watch a movie, kick back, social media, etc. The things that you do if you're in a rideshare car now. And it's designed to be really accessible and easy to get in and out of. The car will arrive, pick you up, take you to your destination, drop you off, stay if you need it to stay, go park itself, go charge itself. It's wireless charging, which is unique on this car as well. So you never have to worry about charging. And it'll just go find a charger, charge itself, and move on. Yeah, the car is really designed around the idea that around 90 to 95% of rides are really only carrying one person, maybe 2 people. So this vehicle isn't designed to be the kitchen sink and carry everybody. We have other vehicles in our lineup and future vehicles coming that will basically take multiple passengers. But this is really focused around the instance, what you see on the freeway, one person in a car going from A to B, whether it's commuting to work, et cetera. And that's what the goal of this is. And I think, if we think about 2 passengers going in comfort to the airport, this is a perfect vehicle for that. Getting you to work. While you're at work, the car can go charge. It can go actually do another delivery. It can pick up another person. With over 200 miles of range, there's no reason to worry about range anxiety. We charge, we do all the work on the back end to make sure that you just have a seamless experience. As we move forward, I think, obviously the car has a really unique signature. The overall design was really to feel like the future and that this car was coming from the future. It's a little bit like a time capsule, and where you get in and transport yourself to your destination in a really comfortable way for a cost of a bus transit ride, which, maybe isn't always the most pleasant experience. But you get your own space, your own capsule to do what you want to do, relax, sleep, again, do your work, be entertained, watch a great movie, etc., and get from A to B and as comfortably and efficiently as possible. We chose the color gold, and it's really a special color. It really reflects kind of a future version of the idea of a New York City yellow cab. And it's a future idea of that, where we've taken that iconic yellow and created something more expressive and more up-to-date. And the gold is just, it feels right. The idea of wedge in Tesla design is something that, we've looked at, obviously, with Cybertruck. It's an incredibly wedgy car. And, I think learning from those things, it's also, there's an efficiency story to that. And all of our vehicles are really designed around efficiency. When you have this teardrop shape, it just improves the overall aerodynamics. You can see that, again, on this car. This is really taking a lot of the language that we've developed and bringing it into a car that's attractive, something that you want to be seen in or own potentially, and with a clean body side, the expressive low nose and really fast back, tapered back, it just has a cool feel to it. It feels very futuristic, very clean, very sensible. Designers are always thinking about the future, and we're in a situation where we can actually express what that future could look like. And, the technology can, in a lot of instances, maybe be scary, and we want to make sure that that isn't part of the equation of the experience, and that you are going to safely get from A to B in a car that's attractive and unique and expressive. And I think, being able to create a narrative for what the future could be is a designer's dream, and I'm just fortunate to be part of that. Some of the interesting features that we have on the Cybercab are just obviously easy to spot. The wheels, people ask about the wheels, like what were we thinking? Well, we wanted the car to be extremely efficient, and from an aerodynamic perspective, putting a clean disc over it, but that wasn't enough. We wanted the wheels to disappear and actually just become part of the overall design of the car. And so we extended the color onto the tire itself, and it really creates a futuristic, like the car is hovering and floating. The doors obviously are unique. They're designed to just make you feel like you're stepping into a futuristic car. And then you get into the interior. The seats are not really designed with bolsters. This isn't a driver's car. This is a car that's just gonna get you comfortably from A to B. They're designed more to be like a couch where you get in, you can kind of slide into a really comfortable position and just enjoy the ride and in total comfort. So I think things like that are obvious. We put a big, huge screen in the center of it. Again, that's the hero of the interior is this giant screen, and that's where you're going to be spending your time. Everything that we do at Tesla, we want to make sure that it feels like we're bringing the future to today. The technology is very advanced, whether it's from the electrification and how we handle that part, including like wireless charging, or the full self-driving software and how that applies into a product. And I think we just wanted to put it in a shell that made it feel like this is the future, but you're experiencing it today. And stay tuned. Obviously with the bus, we showed something very futuristic that can transport up to 20 people extremely comfortably. So we want to create ideas that feel like they're concepts, but they're available right now. Thanks again, I'm Franz. Come down to the Peterson before the new year, see Cybercab. It's here for a few more weeks. I think you'll get a glimpse of what the future of transportation will look like.
I wrote down 7 things that jumped out at me. The biggest one was the range that Franz mentioned. He said over 200 miles. So this confirms what I suspected after the robotaxi event, and that is that the small size of this car, not to mention the fact that it's just not going to be a road trip, interstate capable car because it can't supercharge since its only charging method is wireless, means that it's not going to have a big battery pack, and even with its crazy efficiency, it's just not going to have a lot of range by the current general Tesla standard, meaning 300 plus. But that's okay because for what it's designed for, it doesn't really need 300 miles of range. A strong 200 is probably plenty for an entire day of driving around a city autonomously. But I did want to flag that because that's the first time we've heard the range of this thing spoken to with really any sort of clarity or authority. The second thing in my notes was this. A recent caller to this podcast had suggested a use case of having it go to the grocery store and then having it bring groceries to you after, of course, a store employee loads them in the very large trunk of the robotaxi. And this caller had wanted that because they live in a more rural area where it's a long way to the grocery store. And lo and behold, in that audio, in that video, Franz mentioned that exact use case. So I think it's super cool that Tesla's already thinking about that. Point 3 on my notes here, Franz also mentioned owning it, quote, as long as you want. So I guess that means besides straight up buying one and owning it outright, you can effectively rent it for a day or a week or something, meaning not just for one ride. I'm not sure, I can't say that with certainty, but I'm not sure what else he could possibly mean there. Next, I love that the choice to make it a gold color was an homage to the classic yellow New York City taxi cab, but a futuristic, evolved version of it. That's just a really neat factoid. Designers, they have reasons for the choices that they make. And so it was a very interesting question. Franz, why did you choose gold? And now we know why. Franz also likened the seats to a couch, as they don't have any bolsters and they're a little deeper and wide. And I think I just got a kick out of that because I think I used that exact comparison in my recap episode after my test ride in the Cybercab at the event, which tells me I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. It's the opposite. I'm trying to pat Franz on the back because it means that it was plainly obvious, even the first time hopping in it, that a couch-like deal is what they were going for. Franz also mentioned extending the gold paint onto the tires, not just the wheels, but actually painting the sidewalls of the tires as well. And I have to say, I can't imagine that that's going to make it into production. It just seems like an extra step in manufacturing that Tesla's not going to want to take, unless they just have their tire supplier do it for them when the tires are shipped to Tesla. For what it's worth, which is not really anything because the cars could change from now to production, but the prototypes are sitting on Continental, so I wonder if they will or have made a deal with Continental to supply it when the car actually is manufactured, or if they just grabbed Continentals for the prototype. And then the final thing that jumped out at me is that Franz teased future vehicles that will be more of the, quote, kitchen sink cars that are built to do many different things, unlike the Cybercab, which is pretty purpose-built for one thing. So could he be referring to a minivan, perhaps, if we're talking about kitchen sink cars? So I don't know. That's up to the ear of the beholder to interpret that, I guess. But I'll just say, if you are in the Los Angeles area this week, I do very much encourage you to go to the Peterson Museum and go check out the Cybercab up close, and then just enjoy the rest of the museum, because it is spectacular. Before I get to the last couple of news stories this week, and then your phone calls in the Ride the Lightning hotline, I want to remind you about the Climate Exchange raffle that is coming up. Want to make 2025 your merriest year yet? What if I told you that you could win any Tesla configured however you want, and yes, that does include the Cybertruck, for just $250, and at the same time, you'd be giving to a great cause? Well, you're in luck, because the Climate Exchange EV raffle is back for its 9th year, and proceeds once again benefit a small nonprofit that's doing really important work for our planet to help states pass climate policies. Even better, if you win, Climate Exchange also pays all of the fees and taxes on the car, meaning you get your dream Tesla, or technically any other EV, but you're going to pick a Tesla, with zero out-of-pocket cost. If you're still tackling your holiday shopping list, Climate Exchange makes it easy to purchase tickets as a gift on their checkout page. Plus, tickets are instantly delivered by email and text message, meaning you don't have to stress about shipping delays ahead of your holiday gatherings. As a holiday treat, Climate Exchange is doubling the excitement of your gift with an extra prize. All tickets purchased before the end of 2024 will be entered into the bonus early bird drawing for $10,000 on January 3rd. If you win that, you're still eligible for the grand prize drawing on February 28th. And even better, Climate Exchange is giving away 2 additional cash prizes, $12,500 for their second place winner and $7,500 for their third place winner during their February drawing. Go to carbonraffle.org/RTL to get your tickets and make this the happiest time of the year, or click on the link in the episode description. That's carbonraffle.org/RTL. And don't forget about my friends at Accelerate Auto and their XCare extended warranty policy. I've got one on the Spirit of Adventure, and I will no doubt want to add one to the new car when the time comes, because I do plan on having it for a while. So if you are keeping your Tesla for a while and it's already out of warranty from Tesla, I do genuinely and wholeheartedly recommend the XCare extended warranty option. Why? Because it does everything Tesla's plan does and more. What do I mean by that? Well, Tesla's extended warranty policy, which is, it's not configurable. It's only 2 years, 25,000 miles. That's all you get, that you can't tweak it or change it. And they offer a $100 deductible and 24/7 roadside assistance. Well, XCare matches that, but they also offer rental reimbursement and trip interruption coverage on their policy, which Tesla doesn't. So if you want to go, like me, 3 years, 40,000 miles, maybe you want to go an extra 5 years, 50,000 miles, whatever you want to do, you can do it with the XCare policy. So head on over to accelerateauto.com/xcare, and don't forget to use the discount code LIGHTNING for $100 off your purchase. That's accelerateauto.com/XCARE, discount code LIGHTNING for $100 off your purchase. Links to both Accelerate Auto and the Climate Exchange raffle are in the episode description. Next up this week, American University's Kogod School of Business, I hope I pronounced that correctly, has confirmed with their own study that Tesla makes the #1 most American-made cars, and Tesla dominates the top spots. I got this from Tesla tipster Sawyer Merritt, tip of the cap to him. Here are the rankings and the percentages of domestic content, so U.S. parts basically, in the most American-made cars. #1, the Tesla Model 3 Performance at 87.5%. Well, awesome. That's cool. That's what I just got, so that makes me feel good. Little American pride there on top of being excited about my new car. Tie for second place goes to the Model Y Long Range and the base Model Y, which is no longer offered, both at 85%. #3, the Cybertruck at 82.5% American-made parts. #4 is a 5-way tie, and each of these is at 80% between the Model S, the Model X, the Ford Mustang GT automatic transmission, Ford Mustang GT 5-liter, and Ford Mustang GT Coupe Premium. #5 is a 2-way tie between two Hondas. In fact, two Honda Passports. The all-wheel drive and the Trail Sport each have 76.5% American content. #6 is a tie between two Jeep Wranglers, the Rubicon and the Sahara, at 76%. #7 is a tie, a 6-way tie at 75.5% American-made parts between the Volkswagen ID4 all-wheel drive, the Chevy Colorado 2.7-liter, two GMC Canyons, and two Chevy Colorados. And then #8, finally, here's one all to itself, which is the Volkswagen ID4 rear-wheel drive at 74.5%. And then #9 is 4 more cars tied at 74%. The ID4 rear-wheel drive with a smaller battery pack, the Honda Odyssey, Honda Ridgeline, and Honda Pilot, and #10 at 73.5%, the Lincoln Corsair. Well, Tesla, as you just heard there, has an absolute Darth Vader force choke grip on the top of that list. All 5 Teslas are on that list, and I guess I can chuckle at this and say that I'm doing my part in terms of buying American with my Model 3 Performance and that impressive 87.5% figure. But this is just a good one to file away, this story, in case you ever get any fudsters or maybe actual friends or acquaintances who just haven't been properly informed about Tesla and saying something, if they say something like, well, I'd rather support a traditional American company or something like that, you can show them this list and go, well, actually, the Teslas are the most American-made cars on the market. Side note, for a Japanese company, Honda sure builds a lot of cars in the United States, which is great. That is super cool to see. And the final news story that I have for you this week, and speaking of American manufacturing, Tesla has formally launched the first large-scale lithium refinery in the U.S. Tip of the cap goes to Teslarati here, which is where I saw this story, and they write, Tesla has officially started operations at its new lithium refining factory in Texas, coming over a year after the company first broke ground on the site. The Tesla North American account on X announced that for the first time, the team fed raw materials through the kiln of its Robstown lithium refinery. The site, located outside of Corpus Christi, is the first large-scale refinery for battery-grade lithium in the U.S. and the first industrial deployment of an acid-free lithium refining route, as detailed by Tesla in its original announcement on the project. Quote, "This investment is critical to our mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy and represents our efforts to aggressively increase the supply of battery-grade lithium hydroxide available in North America," the company writes. Upon reaching volume production, the lithium refinery is expected to produce around 50 gigawatt hours of battery-grade lithium annually. Well, this is more jobs at Tesla. It's more expertise at Tesla. It's more vertical integration at Tesla. And all of that ultimately leads to better and probably more affordable Tesla products for us, the customers. So this is another significant achievement for the company, if you ask me. And though this project was initiated a while back, I'll say that the shifting political winds in the US right now could end up making this plant even more valuable to Tesla over the next few years than it had originally thought when it started down this road to make this factory. I mean, the absolute worst case scenario for Tesla on this is that they learn a lot. That's the worst case scenario. They're still going to get a lot out of this. If this were to somehow just not be something that they wanted to continue investing resources in for whatever reason, like maybe the cost to operate it was too high or whatever, I mean, I'm just making things up here, they are going to learn a lot from doing this, I'm sure. But I very much doubt it will be a worst case scenario situation. It's quite the opposite. I expect this will be the start of another good path for the company to go down. Okay, that is everything I've got for you in another busy week of Tesla news, but I am far from done with this week's podcast. Stick with me because coming up next are your phone calls in the Ride the Lightning hotline, and then coming up after that, I will spend some time telling you all about my delivery day for my new Model 3 Performance, and it was, I'm not trying to clickbait you here, I mean, you're already here, but it was a pretty unique delivery day. If you've already seen my Instagram, you know what I'm talking about, but I'll tell you all about my delivery day coming up as well. So stay tuned for the Ride the Lightning hotline next.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
Time for your questions, comments, and discussion topics here in the Ride the Lightning hotline. This is your time to shine, your chance to potentially be featured on the podcast. All you got to do is call in with a question, comment, or discussion topic as it pertains to the world of Tesla. To do that, there are two easy ways to call in. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record your question, please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many callers each week as possible, and then email that file to me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take that same 90-second or less question and call in and leave a message anytime on the Ride the Lightning hotline. 24/7, it's there for you. The toll-free number is 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. First up this week is Bill from Visalia, California.
Hello, Ryan. This is Bill from Visalia, California. I'm calling about the full self-driving transfer. It just appears to me that Tesla should start allowing that all the time, not just occasionally, because as more and more people get the Tesla charging port, the reason to own a Tesla will go down a lot. In other words, I've been looking at the new Lucid Gravity with the Tesla port, and that's a very attractive vehicle. And if they don't let me transfer my full self-driving about a year from now, I will seriously consider going to that because Tesla loses its advantage, a huge advantage. by not letting me transfer it. I don't feel like paying another $8,000 for it. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think they will eventually just let us keep our full self-driving when that happens? I think it's something they should consider. Thanks for listening to me, and thanks for letting me listen to you every week. We'll see you later, and goodbye.
Hi, Bill. Thanks for your call. I've said it before, but you add another good reason to the pile here. I think first and foremost that it should be transferable to a new car. I cannot say that enough. It just should be. We are buying a software license here. It should stay with the owner. If your car gets totaled because somebody slams into you, that is in no way your fault, and you should not be penalized by losing FSD and having to buy it again. So that's where I stand on that, which I'll say until I'm blue in the face, until Tesla actually makes it a forever thing. Anyway, as I've also said somewhat recently, I guess back at the maybe beginning of the quarter when they offered the transfer again for what I think is the 5th or 6th quarter in a row now, it does seem like maybe they are heading that way, even if it's unofficially. And that they've kept it going long enough now where even if Tesla doesn't want to make it an official permanent thing, they've kind of started to create that expectation with buyers. But you add another great point to what I've already said, and that is the widespread adoption of NACS. It's been such a competitive advantage for Tesla, and while they are doing the right thing by giving it to other automakers and the EV movement will accelerate because it's the standard, you are right that suddenly you might consider another brand's EV a lot more seriously than you might have before, now that they can natively access the supercharger network. So we'll see. I think Q1, in just a couple weeks here, will be very telling. If it continues into the new year, then maybe it will be effectively permanent, even if Tesla doesn't codify it into formal written policy. Fingers crossed that that's exactly what happens. Happy holidays, Bill. Thank you again for your call. Next up is Andrew from Ottawa, responding to the geocaching question from last week's podcast.
Hey Ryan, Andrew from Ottawa calling. In a bit of a response to the geocaching question from last week, another way to avoid having to actually type all of those latitudes, longitudes on your physical screen would be if you have the coordinates in your Google Maps or other mapping options on your phone, then you can just click share to Tesla, assuming it's been opened recently, and it'll go directly to the Tesla. So avoiding that extra step of typing it into the Tesla. Hope that works out. Hopefully, congratulations on your brand new Performance Model 3, and best of luck. Take care.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate the pro-tipification of what I had said to the caller about the GPS coordinates on last week's podcast. That is very helpful, and I agree, much quicker to do it that way sometimes than through the car. Take care, and I've got time for one more caller this week. It is John from Tallahassee.
Hey, Ryan, it's John calling from Tallahassee. I just pulled in my garage with my Cybertruck, getting ready to plug it in because I also have Power Share, which is an awesome thing. So I plug it in a lot more regularly than I used to. But I've got a suggestion and a hope or a wish that when I get back in the truck, that when I open the door and it starts booting up, if it would remind me that I'm plugged in and that I need to unplug instead of waiting till I've got my seatbelt on and put it in drive. Just a thought. Maybe somebody from Tesla's listening. That sounds like a pretty simple lift. Great show. Long-time listener, and keep up the great work. Thank you.
Hey, John, I trust your Cybertruck is treating you well. I think this is a good suggestion. I mean, it's simple, sure, but sometimes the best little updates are the simple ones. I mean, just a quick heads up in the UI when you get in that your Tesla's plugged in. Why not? I like it. Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you to everybody that kindly took the time to call in this past week or recently. If you've got a Tesla question, comment, or discussion topic, I do invite you to call in. I gave you the 2 call-in methods at the top of this segment, so refer back to that. Coming up next, I will tell you all about my delivery day. Just hang on.
This is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief, Sierra 117. You're listening to Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast. You know, that Cybertruck looks a lot like a warthog, doesn't it? Master Chief, out.
All right, now if you're interested, I would like to tell you about my delivery experience from last week. First of all, the new name of this segment, it used to be The Spirit of Adventure. The new name of this segment will now be The Soul of Adventure. Yes, I changed the name. I told you last week that I was testing out the Rocket of Adventure, which I liked. But a few different people all messaged me with the same suggestion. And it was The Soul of Adventure, which, as one of them pointed out, is also a sort of Pixar reference. I really liked the movie Soul. I thought it was very good. And then another one of those folks that suggested the name kindly suggested that maybe the Rocket of Adventure would be a better name for the next-gen Tesla Roadster should it ever arrive, since that car will be part rocket on account of the SpaceX collaboration that's been teased on that car. So, The Soul of Adventure, that's what I'm going with. So my delivery day, I have to laugh because in a lot of ways, my delivery day for The Soul of Adventure was the opposite of my first delivery day with The Spirit of Adventure back in July of 2018 for 3 reasons. One was the weather. That was the big one. In 2018, it was the end of July. It never rains in the San Francisco Bay Area in the summer. You are basically guaranteed a decent day of weather, cloudy at best, but it was a sunny, beautiful day, and it was great. Had great weather in 2018. This time, it did not work out nearly as well. It's December. It is our rainy season here in my neck of the woods, and it wasn't just raining. And it was a pretty steady, pretty good rain, but it was so windy that the gusts of wind were like blowing the rain sideways. So we get there and we realized we'd forgotten an umbrella when I'm going to be like looking over this car for a decent amount of time and I forgot an umbrella. So we go right in. And we meet my delivery specialist, and I want to give a shout out to him. His name is Sadi Barber, for making it an absolutely awesome day and also tolerating my extra questions when I pestered him a few different times after he thought he was done with me, when he clearly had plenty of other customers to tend to. It was a busy day at that delivery center, but the weather was so bad. So we go straight in. We park our car, my wife's Mini Cooper, which we drove there, and we park that car. We go straight inside because it's just pouring rain, super windy. And we meet Sadi, say hello. I introduce him to my family. And then he just says, yeah, just head on out, check it out. And you can just go if you want to. But if you have any questions or need anything, just let me know. And thankfully, they had umbrellas there to borrow. So we grab an umbrella and walk outside, and as soon as I walk outside, the gusts of wind are so severe that the umbrella literally tried to lift out of my hands, and then the umbrella inverted, right? It flipped up. So I was just like, well, this isn't ideal. So I walk out to the car. And I don't want my poor wife and daughter to just suffer through this while I pour over this car, or at least do the best I can in the rain. Plus, I knew that not only was I going to pour over it, pardon the phrasing, but I was going to get inside the car and just play around with all the settings, get everything dialed in, examine the interior. So we took a quick once-over of the car on the outside, and I sent my wife and daughter home. I said, you guys can just go. I'm going to be here for a while. And I'm going to go through this thing. And so they left. And that's actually reason number 2 why it was nearly the opposite experience as the first time is the first time in 2018, it was so busy, so chaotic over at the Fremont Delivery Center. This one was closer to my house. And we were 45 minutes past my appointment time in 2018. Like they were just so backed up, so busy. We had to sit around for quite a while before they finally got to us and then did the paperwork, and then we went and looked at the car and actually, finished the process. Well, this time they'd sent me a text 35 minutes before my appointment, before I'd even left my house, that said, your car is in spot number 1. Just, feel free to go on up and open, just unlock the car and go. So my wife, my wife and daughter were probably there for 10 minutes at the most. And I sent them on. It would have been longer, of course. I would have kept them around and invited them to be more of a part of it had the weather not been so bad. But I just didn't want to subject them to that. So sent them on their way. And then, I took a couple little videos and things for my Instagram. If you want to see those, they're on my Instagram page. And if you're not familiar, my Instagram username is DMC_Ryan. So if you'd like to check that out. And so I go over to the outside of the car, and to my eye, the fit and finish looks great. Now it's pouring rain, so I can't get a great look at the paint. I'm also not a professional detailer, so the final word on the paint job is going to come from Jeff at Immaculate Reflections. And in fact, as I am recording this, he is just getting going with the paint correction. So I should get a verdict on how the paint finish is pretty soon. And that's really what I'm most curious about, because the panels all seem to fit well. Everything seems to line up, which it didn't on my 2018. I mean, my 2018, the Spirit of Adventure, it wasn't terrible by any means, but it also was far from perfect. And the Soul of Adventure seems far, far better put together, certainly on the outside. And so then I'm looking it over, and it just looks great. And I get in the car, and I'm just checking out the seats, making sure the seats look good. There aren't any like weird creases in the seats or anything weird with the vegan leather. Everything's looking good. The only obvious visual flaw that I found in the entire car was the headliner. In the front passenger side, on 2 pieces of headliner, the B-pillar headliner and then the overhead headliner, the ceiling headliner, there was a weird, like, red-tinged drip stain. So I don't know if it was paint. I hope that there's not a seal issue in the roof glass. I guess we'll find out. But I pointed that out, and it was noted, and Sadi just told me, yep, just make a service request within the first 24 hours you have the car. So I did that right away. So that's going to get replaced, not cleaned, because he didn't think it could be cleaned. So that's going to get swapped out in a couple weeks. But everything else looked great. And really that comes to number 3. The third reason why it was kind of the opposite experience as the first time is there were almost no flaws on the car. There was only one flaw that I could find, versus the Spirit of Adventure, I found a number of flaws that I pointed out, and I ended up at the service center getting my front fascia kind of readjusted a little bit so that it was better, but still far from perfect. But yeah, the fit and finish looked great. Everything looked pretty great. And then I was finally ready to get out of there. Oh, I want to actually back up a second. I forgot, because I don't have the privilege of this very often in my life. This is my 3rd new car ever, and I'm 44 years old. And I'm not saying that for for pity or anything. That's just how it is. This is my 3rd new car ever. First one in about 6.5 years since the Spirit of Adventure. And I forgot how new car smell. Maybe it doesn't do it for everyone, but man, do I love it. And maybe it's partially because it gets emotionally connected to a really, really, really fun, positive, exciting thing in life, which is getting this new car that I'm excited about. But man, is the new car smell good. And then what I noticed after I got home, because the car, a lot of you will laugh at this. I took it home and I left it in the garage for the weekend until Jeff from Immaculate Reflections, who'd been out of town with his family all weekend, got back into town. And I left the car in the garage until I could take it straight over to Immaculate Reflections to get started with paint correction, full PPF, and ceramic coating. I didn't want to risk, or I wanted to minimize the risk of any rock chips, any debris hitting the car, hitting the paint, causing any little, even tiny, teeny tiny damage. So, but anyway, so it sat in the garage all weekend after taking delivery on Saturday. And when I would come down to my garage, whether it was whatever to get something or go play around with the car some more, I swear that it had new car smell on the outside, which I don't know if that's due to it like being fresh out of the factory, whereas probably 98% of Tesla deliveries, the cars are in transit for a while, they're outside for a while, whereas my car, because I live 45 minutes from the factory, was built in Fremont, and then probably pretty darn quickly trucked across the bay over here to the Peninsula, San Francisco side, and then delivered right to me. So I had it relatively quickly after it was actually made. But I'm telling you, there's a new car smell on the outside where you could go down to the garage and just smell it, and it smelled awesome. I don't know if that's just the smell of paint that's not quite cured yet or what, but anyway, that jump, I don't remember that being a thing back in 2018. I don't remember the outside of the car smelling good too in the garage, but anyway, I thought I would mention that. So one other thing, by the way, my car, despite being built in December, is a 2024 model year, whereas all the rest of the Teslas have, I believe all the rest of them, certainly all the other Model 3s, have switched over to 2025 model year. And I guess the best I can come up with is maybe they're not switching the Model 3 Performance over to 2025 until January 1st, 2025, maybe because they didn't start building them until May of 2024. So it doesn't matter. It's just kind of a weird little thing. I wanted it to be a 2025, I guess, just to make it feel newer longer. But ultimately, I plan on keeping the car long enough where that's not going to matter. One thing I will point out is the new Model 3s, I'm actually not sure if this extends to the rest of the fleet at this point, but the new Model 3 has an updated rear camera housing. Same hardware 4, AI 4 camera back there, but it's in a different housing that's got kind of a couple little like rounded parts in the housing, which I imagine is designed to help keep water off the lens, to keep visibility on that rear camera improved. So even though mine's still a 2024, it does have that, which is a nice little thing. So the first thing I did after I finally left Tesla, I was there for about an hour, just going over the car. It did stop raining mercifully after a little while. But after I finally left, I was like, okay, do I want to just take it straight home, stick it in the garage until Immaculate Reflections can get to it? And I thought, well, I'm not too far from America's Tire. All right, I'm going to go straight to America's Tire and buy the road hazard warranty, because I got completely burned on that with the Spirit of Adventure, where I didn't know until you guys were kind enough to call in, write in, and tell me after all my crazy tire issues, the just bad run of tire luck that I had in the first year or so with the Spirit of Adventure. And I've since passed that advice along to all of you, which is you can go to America's Tire /Discount Tire. It has a different name depending which part of the country you're in. And you, even if you didn't buy the tires there, you can buy the road hazard tire warranty from them as long as the tires are new and have a sufficient amount of tread depth. They'll measure it, and then they'll go ahead and sell you the tire warranty. So I've done that ever since. And on this new car, I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta make sure to do that so that I don't end up having to pay out of pocket when the car is still relatively new for a new tire if something happens. So, foreshadowing, it turns out it's a really good thing that I did that, because the car, after I bought the tire warranty, then I went straight home. Then the car sat in the garage for 3 days. And then when I took it out and I was on my way over to Immaculate Reflections, and I'm just kind of adjusting my mirrors and the seat a little bit and the steering wheel, just getting everything dialed in, and I'm on autopilot, I'm on FSD. And I'm like, let me just see what the tire pressures are at right now. Like, the car's been warmed up a little bit. Like, is it the same as my other car? They're still 20s, but they're different tires and staggered wheels in the back on this one. And so I swipe on the card, on the lower left part of the screen, to get to the tire pressure. 45 PSI, 45, and 38. And I was just like, come on, really? So I just kept an eye on it. Thankfully, the PSI did not go down anymore on my way to Immaculate Reflections. And then when I got there, before I even went inside and said hello to Jeff, I crawled under and I was looking at the tire, and sure enough, a big metal, I don't know if it's a staple or something, got the middle of the tire. And I was just like, really? Like, really? That means it probably happened since it had lost tire pressure and wasn't losing any more on the way to Immaculate Reflections. It probably means that it actually happened on the way back from the tire shop right after I bought the warranty. So my first puncture in my tire happened with less than 50 miles on the odometer. Just absurdity. And so again, if you're a longtime listener and you remember my tire woes from those early days with the Spirit of Adventure, it seems like the curse has returned, you guys. I'm cursed again with the tire stuff, but at least this time I'm armed with the tire warranties. So all I could do is laugh. I mean, I was relieved that it wasn't like in the sidewall. Like, it was in a spot where it should hopefully be fixable. I don't actually know yet. So it's that tire hasn't been dealt with. Because get this, there's an extra little kick in the midsection, kick in the gut here, that just makes this even funnier. Again, particularly if you're familiar with my previous tire situations. At the same time, the Spirit of Adventure also had a nail in the tire, also in the right rear tire. Same tire on both cars. Unfortunately, again, slow leak on Spirit, where I just put some air in it, and I was like, I'll deal with this later in the week. And in fact, I dealt with it yesterday. So again, I'm cursed again, y'all. Both cars, both Model 3s have punctured tires on the same tire on the car, the right rear tire. So all I can do is just like sigh and just laugh at the absurdity of it. It's just crazy. So what else can I tell? I can tell you a couple other little things. Well, one, it's going to be at Immaculate Reflections for a little while, not only because of the comprehensive amount of detailing work that it's getting, but also because it's the holidays. And obviously I respect Jeff's family time, and I don't want him to be working on Christmas Eve to get I don't want that. I'm lucky that it's very different this time than last time. The first time, I'd just gotten my Model 3 Performance that I'd waited actual years for, and it was first world torture for the amount of time. It was like a week and a half, something like that. I don't quite remember. It was first world torture for the entire time that it was at Immaculate Reflections getting all the detailing work done. But this time, it's a far easier first world pill to swallow because I'm driving the Spirit of Adventure. So I'm totally good. I've got a great car I can drive in the meantime. I'm a little bummed I won't get to show my in-laws who are coming to town for Christmas. I won't get to I got to tell them about it at Thanksgiving on our family trip, but I even told them, "Oh, you'll see it at Christmas," and turns out they won't. But that's okay. They'll see it another time. But the other couple little things I can tell you, because I'm already talking for 20 minutes here, but while the SiriusXM situation that I talked about earlier, that there's good news there, as I mentioned earlier, but that was from literally late this week. So when I had got the car, I went ahead and my friend Raj, hey Raj, just shout out to my friend Raj. He sent me a link to the Tesla specific page for Live One, aka Slacker Radio. And so, which I'd honestly forgotten about. Like I covered it on the podcast and then I just forgot about it because I was like, I'm not going to pay for it. You know, it's grandfathered in on the Spirit of Adventure, but on the new one, even though SiriusXM at the moment, it was like, great, I'm not going to be able to use Sirius on this thing without paying for it. Now it turns out I will be able to, thankfully. But I went ahead, Raj sent me the link, and I was taking a look at it. And again, I should have remembered this because I covered it on the podcast, but it's $35 for a year for Tesla owners. So I went ahead and subscribed for a year because I really enjoy the Slacker Radio or One Live One, whatever it is, Slacker. I really enjoy it, and $35, that's $3 a month. Like that's pretty darn cheap. If it were $5 a month, like if it had been $60, I might have been anymore, but $35 for the year, that's pretty darn reasonable. So I went ahead and subscribed to that. Now, again, if I also can get my lifetime SiriusXM on there, even better. Then I'll have a couple of great entertainment audio options on. But that's what I did there. Now the, again, first world annoying part of Slacker Radio in the new car is retraining the algorithm to get it all dialed into my musical tastes and preferences. So that'll take, it takes time, right? You got to just keep doing thumbs up and feeding it, or telling it, play this artist, play that artist that I like, play this song, play that song, and just keep doing thumbs ups on the stuff you like, thumbs downs on the stuff you don't. But that'll be part of the journey in the new car. So again, it's the new car is at Immaculate Reflections now. It is. I can't wait to see what it's going to look like when he's done with it, because the Spirit of Adventure has looked so good, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to make it like I am genuinely so impressed at how good that car still looks after 6.5 years. I'm telling you, it still looks brand new. You look at it and you'd be like, if you didn't know that the Model 3 had been refreshed, had been given a design refresh, you'd be like, oh, is that a new Model 3? Did you just get that? Like, no, it has 70,000 miles and it's 6.5 years old. So I can't wait until Immaculate Reflections is done with the new car, with that ultra red, getting it looking as perfect as it can. So I'm super psyched. And one other quick thing I'll mention, which actually isn't about the new car, but I bought the car cover, the official Tesla car cover for the Model 3 from shop.tesla.com. And for the weekend, when I had both cars, the Spirit of Adventure had to go outside. So I put the car cover over it for a couple different reasons. One is for the elements, because it gets foggy. It's like wet here a lot. There's a lot of dust in the air. Cars get pretty filthy sitting outside around here. So I wanted to try and minimize that. And then quite frankly, my wife's car living on the street, her Mini Cooper, for no reason, because people are people sometimes, it's been keyed twice down, like huge giant gash down the driver's door for no reason. It's just parked. It's not parked on, it's parked illegally in a spot, not harming anybody, but that's just people do that stuff sometimes, and it's terrible. But so I wanted to have the car cover to really just protect it a little bit, and just keep it out of people's attention, just so they'll look at the car cover and they'll just keep walking. They'll keep moving on, because I used a car cover with my DeLorean when I was in college in Arizona after the first few years I had the car before I moved up to San Francisco. And I worked at Staples, the office store in college. And of course, the DeLorean was my only car, so I drove it to work and I would park it. It would be outside. So I covered the DeLorean for two reasons. One, the sun. I mean, granted, there's no paint on the body for the sun to eat away, but there is an all-leather interior that I wanted to keep the sun from baking in my DeLorean. So I would cover it for that, for weather reasons, but then also to keep attention off of it, because it's a DeLorean. I assure you from personal experience, if it's uncovered, especially for hours, if I'm working like an 8-hour shift, I just come out to a fingerprint covered DeLorean. You Cybertruck owners can probably relate to this. And I'm telling you, the car cover, it worked. Like, people didn't notice, didn't care that there was a DeLorean under that. They would just move along. I never ever once came out to like the car cover pulled up in one spot, or like just people, the car cover does a good job of just shielding it from prying eyes. People they don't register what's underneath it and they move on. So that was the other reason I wanted to get the car cover, for the spirit of adventure, now that it's going to live outside. And I'll say it is a very thick, very premium, very heavy cover. Like, it's no joke. It's not just like a tarp. It is a snug fitting, multi-layered, very impressive car cover. But it comes in a beautiful, like, carrying tote bag. It almost looks like a bowling ball bag. Like, it's with the T logo on it. Like, it's a nice carrying bag for the car cover. But just taking the car cover off, rolling it up. Like, I have a little system from back in the day where, I'd fold up one side, fold the side, fold the other side, fold them together, and then roll it up. And it compresses it pretty good. It doesn't come anywhere close to fitting back in that bag. The bag is way too small. I'm never getting it back in that bag. So that's my one significant piece of criticism about the Tesla car cover for the Model 3, is the bag, is the carrying case. So I don't love that, but otherwise it's a really, really nice car cover. All right. I've talked for almost half an hour about the new car. Some of you may have tuned out, and that's okay. That's why I put this at the end, right? I did all the Tesla news and everything first, so that if you didn't care about hearing about my delivery day, you could have just turned the podcast off and still gotten a lot of information out of it. But all right, that's that. I guess the last thing I'll say is I'm very grateful to a number of you that used my referral link, because that gave me a nice discount on this car as well. I'm just grateful to all of you for listening and for supporting what I do here, because a day like last week, that delivery day, again, for me, it doesn't come around very often in my station in life. And again, I'm not complaining. But that's how it is. And so I really try my hardest to not take that for granted. Like, when I was driving the car home from the tire place, after, of course, picking it up from Tesla after taking delivery, I had like a song I really like on, and I had a little emotional moment. Not like shedding tears, but like I could feel, I just got a little emotional for a second, just taking it in, like looking around the cabin, like, wow, look, like I was able to do this. Like, this is not, like, this car, it's special. It's a privilege to get to have this. And it's a really special day, and it's a really special thing. And so just I want to thank all of you for being a part of it over the years and helping make a day like that happen, make a day like that possible. Because by listening to this, you do help make that possible. And I'm really grateful to all of you. All right, let's do a pro tip of the week here. It comes from John in West Virginia.
Hey, Ryan, this is John from West Virginia. Just wanted to give you a quick call and give you a tip I ran across. When you turn on your parking lights or your headlights manually to keep them on for whatever reason, and you get out of the car locks, you walk away. As you walk away, the headlights stay on, or parking lights. I discovered this accidentally the other night, and if you happen to have full self-driving or enhanced autopilot, simply to turn off those lights, open up your app, summons your car forward just a matter of inches to a foot or in reverse, and those headlights will turn off when it deactivates the summons. Something I ran into, saved me from going out in the cold the other night, and just wanted to pass it along. Thanks for what you do. Love the podcast. Listen every week, and play with those puppies for me. Have a great day.
This is a good workaround there, John. Thank you so much. This is a solid pro tip, and I will absolutely, by the way, play with those puppies on your behalf, and I guarantee you they will both appreciate it. Daisy's the only one here right now, but Mina will be back soon. Thank you for calling in. Appreciate the pro tip. And if anybody else out there has a good Tesla pro tip of the week that you'd like to share with me and your fellow Tesla owners and enthusiasts, you can send that in the same way that you send in regular Ride the Lightning hotline calls. And I gave you the 2 call-in methods and instructions for that a little while ago. Before I skedaddle, I want to mention some friends of the podcast that can perhaps be of use to you at some point in time. Maybe that time is now, maybe that time is down the road. I'll start with abstractocean.com. They've got a ton of great aftermarket accessories for your Tesla, whether it's blacked out emblems, whether it's different lighting kits in different colors for the inside of the car, the outside of the car, puddle lights, that kind of thing. The 4th generation tempered glass screen protectors for the small screen for the second row passengers that are in the new Model 3, the Cybertruck, the S and the X. Just all kinds of stuff. You got to check them out. abstractocean.com. And you can get 15% off of your first order by using the coupon code RTL Podcast. That's all one word, no spaces, RTL Podcast, that coupon code for 15% off of your first order at abstractocean.com. Head on over to grab your snap plate or the newer Snap Plate Plus that's stronger. You can get that for S3, XY, and Cybertruck at everyamp.com/RTL. And there's a coupon code on top of that, RTL. So punch that in when you get there, when you get everything in your shopping cart that you're looking for. This is the front license plate bracket that I recommend rather than the one that Tesla gives you, because the one that Tesla gives you sticks to the front of your vehicle with automotive adhesive, automotive tape. And I'm not into that, because if you ever want to take it off, it's going to be a bad time trying to get it off cleanly. So get the snap plate or the newer, stronger Snap Plate Plus at everyamp.com/RTL. When you have what you like in your cart, use the coupon code RTL for a nice little discount. Immaculate Reflections. Hey, that's where my car is right now. In fact, as of today when I'm recording, paint correction was commencing. So I am currently awaiting the verdict on how the paint finish is, because the paint finish on my first Model 3, the Spirit of Adventure, wasn't great in terms of the number of flaws that Immaculate Reflections discovered and was able to take out most of them. There's some things that that a detailer just can't deal with, that they just can't fix. But I had a whole bunch of them on the first car, and I am very curious how my Ultra Red on my 3 Fresh turns out. So I will hopefully be able to give you the update on that next week and see what the verdict is there, because obviously, as you just heard, I took delivery in the pouring rain, and so I did not, even with my untrained eye, I wasn't able to really give the paint finish a good look over, but it's getting that now over at Immaculate Reflections. So if you want to bring your Tesla there or another car in your garage that you care about, if you're going to be in or if you're in or going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, you're going to want to get in touch with the owner, Jeff, before you bring your car over to make an appointment, get on his calendar. Go to his website, which is irdetailing.com. And from there, you can reach out, you can get in contact, and just mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener, and any work that you do have booked in, you'll be kindly extended the Ride the Lightning listener discount, which is super cool. So I will have more updates on my car from Immaculate Reflections over the next, well, definitely next week, and then hopefully by the week after I should have it back and really have some commentary about it once it's done. And finally this week, I mentioned it a little earlier in the podcast, but I want to mention it one more time here. That is my Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. And that is the website you can go to if you'd like to support the podcast. It's completely voluntary, but I would be so humbled and so grateful if you would consider supporting the podcast. If you enjoy it every week, you get something good out of it every week. You know I'm here for you every week, 490 straight weeks now and counting. And so the support tiers, well, the higher up you go, the more perks you get, because up at the higher tiers, you get all the perks of the lower tiers as well. So the tiers start at just $5 a month. And for that $5 a month, you'll get an ad-free episode and you'll get early access to that ad-free episode every week as well. You don't have to wait till Sunday. If you go up to that $10 per month tier, that's the most popular one. You'll get the ad-free, you'll get the early access, and you'll get access to all of the lightning round mini episodes that I do each week. As I mentioned earlier, there are now 125 of them in there just waiting for you to dive into if you back the Patreon at that $10 per month tier or higher. So again, visit patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. If you are not already following this podcast on your favorite podcast service, I encourage you to do so. It's totally free. Just search Ride the Lightning Tesla Podcast on whatever your favorite podcast service is, whether that's Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, or YouTube Podcasts. You should find me, and then just click the follow button, and that way you will be sent a push notification every time there's a new episode, which for this podcast is every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. Finally, a big hello and thank you here as 2024 winds down to the top tier Patreon backers. I'll start with the tippy top tier, the Roadster in Space crew. Thank you so much for your very generous support to Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Carol Weston, Robert from near Philly, American Home Contractors, GetAmber.com, Doug Carey, Rav, and Michael Gallo. Next up, big ol' thank you to the Maximum Plaid backers, Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Richard Corley, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Adam Christie, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, Jerry Slinger, Clayton Goodfellow, Michael Mizrahi, and Kenneth Corbett. And finally, the grandfathered-in plaid-level supporters, huge thanks for your continued support to George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, not Elon Musk in quotes, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. And that will wrap it up for episode 490 of Ride the Lightning. We are counting down to episode 500 now. It's getting close. In the meantime, though, we've got a new year to ring in. I will do that on next week's podcast, where I will do my annual Tesla New Year's predictions. I will go back and score myself from last year's predictions, and I'll make a bunch of new ones. And then we'll see in a year's time what has come true and what hasn't. So, again, happy holidays to all of you. Thank you all so much for listening. It is just genuinely appreciated that you want to hang out with me and share in this collective enthusiasm that we have for these cars and what this company is up to. It's just fun, and I try to make it fun. I try to make this podcast fun, that is. Tesla makes fun stuff, and I just try to have fun talking about that stuff and do it in a way that's fun to listen to with the format and what I'm doing. So if you've made it this far, odds are you find it fun on some level, so thank you. But in all seriousness, I do appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening. Happy holidays to all of you. Happy electric motoring. And I'll see you back here for one more time in 2024 before we start up 2025 next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.